Hey guys, this is Sam King Davis coming at you for Wise Wednesdays, and today I want to talk to you about money. And money is a sensitive topic, let's say, for some artists. I think that some of you out there have kind of sort of figured it out by now. A lot of you out there are figuring it out, and then there's some people who are just completely thrown around by their emotions when it comes to money and don't really understand how to use it properly. Some of us were fortunate enough to grow up in families that taught us financial literacy. Some of us were not, and I'm here to tell you that I was not one of those people that was brought up. So I want to talk to you about a couple of different topics around money. I'll probably do another video on this because it's such a sensitive and popular topic, I think, among artists. But two things I want to talk to you about is the first one is this book called Money Drunk, Money Sober. You probably recognize this name, Julia Cameron. She wrote The Artist Way. And she co-authored this book with Mark Bryan. And the first half of the book talks about the type of money drunk, as she puts it. So the types are, there's a compulsive spender, there's the poverty addict, there's, the big deal chaser, compulsive spender, big deal chaser, maintenance money drunk, poverty addict, and the cash codependent. So in the first part of the book, they outline the different types of money drunks. And then the second half of the book is actually a workbook. And I did this about 3 years ago, and I can tell you from personal experience, it totally transformed my financial situation to the point where now I'm riding by. It's like 6 months now since I've worked, and I'm still good for another 4 or 5 months. So that's not including the investments that I have put away since I started with this book. So it's not. I'm not bragging because it's not a huge accomplishment. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a ton of money put away. But before I had this book, I was essentially living paycheck to paycheck. I had a little bit of money saved up, but I would always end up spending it. And the thing that they talk about early in this book is the financial barometer. And what this is basically however we grew up, that's usually how we carry our financial habits and behaviors into adulthood. And the thing that was frustrating for me was that I was always good at making money. I had a job in sales and I was a good salesman and I made good money. And the problem was, though, is despite my low expenses, I would always go to my account and I would be low on money. And it didn't make sense to me with the amount of money that I was making and the expenses that I had. Where was this money going? And one experience that made this really real for me was when I studied abroad in Vienna. I came back and I went to my art studio after 4 months, and I looked around, and in my studio I had just a bunch of worthless items. Maybe they weren't worthless, but they were things that I bought that I was never going to use. And I had this flash of memories come back that about a month before my trip, I was so scared about traveling to a different country because I had never done it before alone. And I went shopping and I bought a bunch of stuff that I didn't need, and it made me feel good. All of this stuff that I was buying, it made me feel like I had some kind of power. And it made me feel strong that I could afford this stuff, and I was a man, and I could take care of myself, and it gave me kind of like an artificial sort of feeling of confidence and soothed my fears. But the reason it was such a shock to me when I came back is because I didn't remember doing it until I came back. And also, I could have really used that money while I was traveling abroad, but I wasted it on a lot of stupid shit, for lack of a better word. Um, so that was one of those moments for me. And when I started working in this book, I realized my emotional barometer when I was growing up was always survival. There were a lot of things said to me growing up, like money doesn't grow on trees. If you don't work and make it with your own hands, you're stealing it. We may not be rich, but we'll always get by. We're gonna make it. We're survivors. So these are just some of the things that were told to me when I was a child, and I have a whole list of them, which is part of the workbook section or the workshop section in this book. But I had a whole list of these scripts that were going through my head about money. And what I learned by doing this workshop or doing this workbook is my emotional barometer was survive. And if you survive, it's going to be okay. So despite how much money I made more than what I needed, I would spend that extra money. And this was going on for years and years in my life unconsciously. I was not conscious of this very much. And when I came into this book and I started doing the work, it started to enlighten me as to how my emotions are connected with my spending, how my upbringing and the things that I was told over and over and over in adulthood that I affected the relationship that I had with money. And I can't speak for anyone but myself, but I noticed that a lot of artists have a hard time accepting money for their artwork, and that's kind of a deep issue. I think it involves a lot more than just this particular thing that I'm talking about now. I think self-worth is wrapped up in that, and self-esteem, and the fact that we identify with the art that we make. We think that it's a part of us. So I think that there's other things that go into it, but I know for me personally, one of the things was that for me, I enjoyed it and it was a thing that I loved, and therefore getting paid for it was somehow bastardizing that or tainting that somehow. So the main reason I want to make this video is because I want to encourage people to check out the book, Money Drunk, Money Sober. There's other programs that are available out there. There's other things that you could do, workshops and stuff to raise your consciousness about money and your relationship with money. This is the book that worked for me. I've done other workshops. It's important to remember that different people have different barometers when it comes to money. My barometer growing up, as I said, was just survive, get by. We never had more money than we needed. We always had just enough. So strangely, that translated into my adulthood, where even though I was making a lot more money than my peers, I always just had enough. Some people have a barometer around money that says that they should definitely be a millionaire by 20, and those people end up doing that. So this is a very powerful programming that we have from childhood through adolescence. It's formed mainly by our parents or the people who brought us up, and also largely by society about how we should deal with finances. So I want to be very clear about something that people, I think, are very confused about, which is many people think that if you make more money than you're making now, then it's going to solve your financial problems. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. And the reason I say that is because the financial problems are not coming from how much money we're making in most cases. The financial problem is coming from the emotional and financial barometer. So I can tell you from my own personal experience, my financial problems did not get better when I made more money, because I was making much more money than my peers at my age. But my financial problems were still there. Now I've dealt with and continuing to deal with the emotional sobriety, let's say, or emotional stability around money and financial barometer. I've started to rewrite my script and replace what was told in childhood with the scripts that I'm telling myself now. And since I've done this work there in that program, in that book, I have seen a 180-degree turn in my financial situation. I, in fact, make less money than I made when I was in my 20s as a caricature artist, although it's getting close. But I have much more money put away now. I have a bigger financial safety net, and I also have some investments that I've put away as well. So I'm telling you, it doesn't seem logical, but the reality is until you fix that financial emotional barometer that is programmed so deeply in your mind and in your body and in your psyche, things will never change. That's been my experience, at least. So speaking of the financial scripts, the book has some exercises for that. I also I participated in an abundance program on WhatsApp that some people convinced me to do, so I went ahead and did that. And the very last exercise in that, I think it was a 7-week thing, was to write a declaration of unlimited abundance. And before I read this to you, this goes back to my point about mindset. Some of us have guilt around money. Some of us have hang-ups about making too much money or asking for too much. Or maybe we have a low sense of self-worth that we're not looking at, or a low sense of self-esteem. Or maybe we're comparing ourselves to other artists that are masterful and we look up to, and we don't think that we deserve what we're worth or what the asking price is. You do deserve it. If people are willing to pay you for your art, they think that it's worth it, and you're cheating yourself by not asking for what you're worth. And on top of that, people don't respect your work if you undercharge for it, and they won't respect your work or your time. So I just want to say that you do deserve to ask the market price. And that's not to say that, I'm definitely not recommending I'm not telling anybody to not take an internship or anything like that. But I'm just speaking from my own experience as a freelancer and someone who works as a live caricature artist. Why not ask for more? What can the client say? Can they say no? That's literally the worst thing that can happen, is they can say no. And then, even then, it's not necessarily over. You still have an opportunity in a lot of cases to negotiate that a little bit. And I can tell you from my experience doing corporate gigs, I'm charging 50% more than other caricature artists are charging in Prague, and clients are paying for it. And they're paying for it because I speak English, I show up on time, I have a professional website, I send them the invoices on time, I show up early on time with good artists, dressed well and clean. So I bring a value that other artists aren't bringing to these clients. And, consider this about clients. I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, but I want to say this. Consider this about your clients. The last gig that I did, I think in that one night, I personally made $700, and the artist that I was paying, I paid them, I think, about $400 a piece, and we had 7 artists, and it was for 3 hours. So, that may seem like a lot of money to some of you, but when I did the research on that company turns over $5 million a year. So, $1,000, $1,500, even a couple of grand is pocket change to them. And a lot of people also aren't considering that they get to write that expense off. So that helps to bring them down in the next tax bracket and actually saves them money in a lot of cases. So don't be afraid to ask for even above market value, as long as you're confident in the services that you're providing. And if you don't feel that confident yet, or maybe your website's not clean enough yet, at least ask what the market value is. Because when you go below that, you not only cut yourself short, but you also you're bringing the market down. You're bringing the value of everybody's product down. by charging much less than what other people are charging. And this is true not just with caricatures, of course, this is true in any industry. So let me get to the Declaration of Unlimited Abundance. Earlier, I was talking to you about how these scripts I had growing up formed the way I behave around money. So I had to rewrite those scripts. I have some simpler ones, some less elaborate ones that I came up with from the book, from working in the book. But the one I'm going to read to you now is from a workshop. And again, it's called the Declaration of Unlimited Abundance. And I'm going to read this, and it might sound kind of high and self-righteous or kind of puffy or a pie in the sky. But why not? Why would I not go for the very best that I could go for? Why would I not replace those limiting scripts that I had growing up with unlimited abundance, with unlimited affirmations for myself for what's possible? Last thing that I'll say before I get into this is that a little disclaimer is that, money is not everything for me. Money for me I see as a vehicle to do what I love to do, to create art, to not have to worry about getting my bills paid and my needs met and my family's needs met in times of crisis like we're going through right now. And it also is an ability for me, having extra money is an ability for me to relax and not have anxiety about getting my needs met. And it's also having access money is also about being able to contribute to causes and to contribute to movements and things that I find important for the world. That includes, my own family and their education, my own late life retirement, but also, maybe a book project that I want to do or someone else's Kickstarter project that I'd like to support. So that's just the tip of the iceberg there. But okay, so let's get to it. Declaration of Unlimited Abundance. Today marks the day that I, Samuel J. King Davis, embark on a new and expanding relationship with money. Money is good, clean, potential energy and is useful for my growth, satisfaction, and well-being. Money brings positive things into my life, enables me to provide for my family, and allows me to make momentous changes in the world. The success I have brings wealth and money to my loved ones and me. I deserve to be prosperous and possess the emotional sobriety and capacity to manage huge amounts of wealth. Money is my friend, and my investments grow every day. My money works for me. My persistent commitment to artistic mastery and creating value through humor and inspiration manifests in self-creating, self-sustaining, and self-expanding wealth. I am the historical turning point on which my family tree blossoms into vibrant, fruitful abundance. So it is, so it is, so it is. And I signed it at the bottom. I have that hanging on my refrigerator, and I probably read that about once a week. So I hope that you guys got some helpful information out of that. I hope I was able to bring some value to you, and I hope that you realize that you have the power to change these scripts, which are probably puppeting you if you haven't dealt with them yet. If you don't want to be a puppet to the scripts and programming that you grew up with around money, if you seem to be okay at making money, but for some reason don't seem to have it, or you're in this corona crisis right now and you're going broke and you can't pay your bills and you're worried about what's going to happen for the next month, if you're having any of those problems, chances are that you haven't dealt with this stuff yet. And I want to give you some hope because it's not really that difficult to deal with it. It just takes for you to set aside the time and look at it and do the work in the book. I'll put a link to the book below. If you do that one worked really efficiently and effectively for me. I'm not saying that book has a monopoly on financial sobriety, but it's one that really helped me a lot, and it was simple and easy to work with, and it allowed me to continue to use the tools that I learned in that to change my financial life. So there is hope. You can start today. You don't even need to have a paycheck coming in to start doing this right away. Of course, that helps, but there are things that you can do to turn your financial life around and change that script, to flip the script on the money issues that you might be having in your life. So I love you guys. I hope that helped. Feel free to leave comments in the section below. Please subscribe down here. Click the bell so you get notifications on new videos that I come out. I'll be coming out with these every Wednesday on just whatever topic inspires me through the week. And if you have any suggestions also for videos or topics that you want me to bring up and talk about, I'd love to do that. This is for you guys. I'm making this podcast for you, and because I want to share the things that I've learned in my life that have turned it around and helped me forge a new path. So again, love you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families, and see you next Wednesday.